In today's world, where deviations from traditional norms are often celebrated, such as biological male Australian Army captains being permitted to wear female uniforms and makeup, it is sometimes refreshing to see common sense prevail. The UK Supreme Court has recently issued a definitive ruling stating that the terms woman and sex in the UK Equality Act refer exclusively to biological women and biological sex. Consequently, a biological man who acts, identifies as, or believes himself to be a woman is no longer legally recognised as a woman in the UK. This sign is no longer factually correct, at least from a legal standpoint. Some might argue that it was never factually correct to begin with. The BBC reported, Supreme Court backs biological definition of woman. It was a unanimous decision, by the way, while the ABC stated, UK's top court rules legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. Unsurprisingly, opinions are divided. Some view this as a victory for common sense, while others perceive it as a setback for transgender rights. Obviously, this definition has essentially remained unchanged for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. It's odd that the UK has only now made a ruling on this. Historically, as well as in the present day, males have naturally needed to identify females, and females have naturally needed to identify males. Males dressing up in female clothes, or vice versa, certainly didn't change that fact. Now, of course, in the modern world, with advanced medicine and surgical procedures, it's become increasingly easier for people to alter their outward sexual characteristics. However, this still doesn't change underlying biology, nor will it. Historically, society has deemed or recognised that women have certain needs and require specific rights. Whether it's a female sports team or a women-only change room, most people agree that in certain situations, women have the right to be by themselves without the prying eyes of men. Fair enough. But of course, not everyone is happy with this ruling. Some say it marks a backward step for transgender rights. The UK-based LGBT charity Stonewall responded by saying, Stonewall shares the deep concern at the widespread implications for today's ruling from the Supreme Court. It will be incredibly worrying for the trans community and all of us who support them. To critics of this ruling, I would simply say that two things can be true at once. A woman can be defined as a biological female, and some biological men may believe or feel that they are women. Both statements are true, but we need not merge the two. If a biological man thinks, feels, and acts as though he is a woman, that's fine. He can live his life however he chooses. However, this does not grant him the legal rights of a woman, at least according to the UK Supreme Court. Specifically, according to the judge's ruling, the words sex, woman, and man mean, and were always intended to mean, biological sex, biological woman, and biological man. Notably, they stated that this conclusion does not remove or diminish the important protections available under the Equality Act for trans people. The judges argued that a broader definition, which includes transgender people, would render the Equality Act incoherent and unworkable. For example, regarding breastfeeding, pregnancy, and similar matters, they wrote, "These provisions are all incoherent and unworkable unless woman and man have their biological meaning." They further noted that one's certificated sex does not override biological definitions, writing, "We can identify no good reason why the legislature should have intended that sex-based rights and protections under the Equality Act should apply to these complex heterogeneous groupings, rather than to the distinct group of biological women and girls, or men and boys, with their shared biology leading to shared disadvantage and discrimination faced by them as a distinct group." Essentially, the UK Supreme Court has ruled that grouping men who believe they are women, even if legally certified by the state, with biological women leads to an incoherent and unworkable set of laws. Unfortunately, in Australia, we still have politicians who refuse to acknowledge this reality. For example, the current Shadow Treasurer, Shannon Fentiman, who in 2023 served as both the Minister for Women and the Minister for Health in Queensland, stated, "Anyone that identifies as a woman is a woman." Well, with all due respect, Ms. Fenneman, you may have been the Minister for Women, but your politics are at odds with hundreds of thousands of years of human biology and sociology. Moreover, the UK Supreme Court now disagrees with your stance.